This is the Voice for Real Estate podcast. Whether you're buying a home, building a home, or designing a home, you'll meet the local experts who can provide all the information you need in every episode of Voice for Real Estate. And be sure to subscribe, share, and comment so you don't miss a single episode of Voice for Real Estate.
Here we are for another Voice for Real Estate, and I'm so excited to have Jim from Coldwell Banker. Jim, thanks for joining us, and I got to tell you, I'm excited about having you because you have a great viewpoint of what's going on since you're the broker at the two offices, one in Mount Pleasant and one downtown. So I got to say, it's funny because the article, as you know, in a recent edition of Mount Pleasant magazine, we did that article on you. The reaction from some of the people in the offices prior to asking you if you'd come on, I did a little due diligence about it. People just love you, man. And the people that you have in your office that you look after and you help nurture, that's why I wanted to get to know you better, because I knew that the leadership there had to be kind of special. So
appreciate the kind words. I do. I've got a special group, and I love them and love working with them.
But because of your vantage point of being a broker in both those offices, what do you feel like the market is right now? What is it doing? And let's, right now, if you don't mind, I want to focus on sellers. What would you tell a seller at this point in time in this marketplace?
Well, there's certainly some downward pressure. We're seeing, interest rates that have just risen very quickly, above what our norm is these days. They're not rates we haven't seen before, but they're rates we haven't seen before in a long time. So I think the first inclination of a seller may be, should we wait? Should we wait on the market to do something different? Should we, maybe consider selling our home at another point? And, I think there could be something to that. But the thing that happens in Charleston that's happening right now, is we have no inventory. And so, we've listed several homes, for example, in my office this week, and a gentleman just came in my office right before we went on, and he had 3 offers on that property. And so he picked a good list price. And he ended up,
Jim, excuse me for interrupting, but how long has it been listed?
About 20 minutes. That's an exaggeration. It went on earlier today, went on the market, and he had 3 offers. And, maybe it's not the crazy price somebody would have gotten 120 days ago, but it's certainly, it's showing that inclination of pricing in a very good way that is substantially more than the market would have bore, let's say, a year ago.
Prices are really standing are steady, like there's not any dip in them, really.
Yeah, and one of the things we were seeing before is in this same house, for example, we got 3 offers on. We would have gotten 20 offers on it maybe 6 months to a year ago. And it certainly would drive it to a level. And, I'd be concerned if somebody could get that same price maybe 2 years from now if they wanted to sell it. As things are increasing now, I think it's much more reasonable. I think it's still, Charleston's growing, prices are going up, and inventory is still low. I think with inflation and interest rates being where they are, it gives real estate's a micro market issue. You can't watch the news every night and see them project for the whole country. Wow, we're in this tailspin or whatever you want to call it, and then apply it to every market. In Charleston, our market is a micro market, of course, of that. And then we have micro markets within our market. And our inventory is still very challenging for most people. There is good demand because people are coming here every day of the week. So again, I think for sellers, waiting could be an issue because, I don't know that it's going to bear what they think it's going to bear. So I would try to match somebody with a good professional that knows the market, that can help them price. And I still think great houses are selling at great prices.
Be part of the conversation surrounding Mount Pleasant. Sponsor the Mount Pleasant podcast. Podcast marketing is the new, powerful way to brand your business and reach your customers. For more information, visit carolinapodcasts.com or call 843-345-7012.
You're listening to the Voice for Real Estate podcast, a conversation about coastal Carolina real estate.
In the article that we did on you in the magazine, you talk extensively about relationships. And you think, based on the article that we published, you feel deeply about the fact that it's a relationship and the trust that they have with, meaning that the agent has with their buyer or seller. Can you elaborate and tell me why that's so important?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say to my agents, you can't spell real estate without relationships. And that's a little bit of a takeoff on how you spell relationships, but it is true. Real estate agents are meant to be trusted advisors, and, a home for most people, we certainly have investors and other people that do different things with real estate. But most people are buying a home for their family. It is a very important purchase for them. Often it's the biggest investment they ever make. And, so when I try to drill down with my agents, we need to be really good at what we do. For them to trust their business with us, we need to honor them in that process. I feel like my role as a broker is to treat my agents the way I want them to treat their clients. It's all kind of a projection of what we kind of set forward. It's like, the parents and their kids, right? We try to be the best people we can be so that we raise people that are really good people. And as a broker, I just want to, set a tone for my agents that the expectation is professionalism, competence, and to honor the people they work with. And that's, it's a smart business model too. It leads to return business for people, because if somebody treated somebody really well, guess what? They're going to, when their sister moves here, they're going to, hey, you need to call such and such. And so we really do try to honor those relationships, treat people with respect, and be as well prepared and equipped to help our clients to the best of our ability.
Well, not most, just about every agent in your office feels that same way, because they're pros at what they do. But you're the cheerleader that's carrying that flag there, amongst other things. But I know that they'd like to hear that, because even though they know it, right, having leadership there that believes in it, I think is really important. Now you've been in the business almost 2 decades. You've been a broker there 3 years. But actually, you're a broker at 2 offices, right?
Yeah, Mount Pleasant and downtown Charleston.
What's the biggest thing you've learned after taking this position? Like it's a lot different, right, Jim, from selling real estate versus being the leadership of such strong agents like you have. What have you learned most?
Well, it's funny. Absolutely, it's very different. This is a second career for me. I was an executive director back in the day of a mental health facility. That's a whole different podcast. But and that shouldn't say anything about agents, so real estate agents. But when I went,
you're a comedian too, is that right?
It's got to be a fun atmosphere too, right? I mean, it keeps us all sane. We really do honor that. It is. I've got a great fun group as well. When you go into real estate as an independent contractor agent, you often say to yourself, I'll never work for anyone again. And yet 3 years ago, when the position came open, I don't want to say I reluctantly put in for it, but I'd had my broker's license a number of years. But the group that I work with made me want to do it. And I mean that sincerely.
The group you work with the owners of Coldwell Banker, or the group of the agents in there?
The agents. I honestly, I really didn't. I love Coldwell Banker in many ways as an agent, but you're still I didn't necessarily have too many interactions with the people above.
People in their office, seriously, dude, they really think you're a special kind of person.
Well, and the feeling's mutual, and that is truly what I meant. That when the position became open, I look at life as seasons, and I'd been an agent for a while. I'd been a manager before, and I said to my wife when the position came open, I think I'm going to put in for this. What do you think? And it was really based on the people I work with every day as an agent. And because I'd been doing this for a while, I mentored a few people. I was always open to answer some questions. And that's kind of the culture here. We're not all closing our doors in competition with one another. It's a collaborative process.
I agree.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron. And so that really is what motivated me to want to lead this group, because of the quality and just the integrity of the people. Now, on a Coldwell Banker note, I've then met the people above me, and I believe in the company. I think the company's got great ethics. I think they really want to do things right. They've been around for a while, but they're not a dinosaur. And so everything kind of fit into place for me to become the broker in charge.
Let's talk about the market condition a little bit more. And I appreciate you talking about a seller and giving us an example at the beginning. But, it's much more easier for a person to, whether it's a real estate agent or a podcast producer, right? To be negative. If you let yourself go that way, that will happen. There's some good things happening right now that's going to help the buyers and sellers. And some of it has to do with mortgages. Tell me the benefits of this market we're in right now.
For a buyer, you have opportunities clearly that you haven't had in the last 2.5 years. In all sincerity, buyers, went through the washing machine in the last 2.5 years. You would be in a multiple offer situation. You'd be someone that would be pressured to offer above market. You might be pressured, by the market again to, even waive your appraisal. You might be pressured to consider, whether doing an inspection is a good idea.
Buying at it as is.
Absolutely. So, this market is an opportunity for buyers. And, the opportunity is that maybe it won't have multiple offers. Maybe there's more than one house to look at. Maybe there's some inventory to consider. And absolutely, people our age, Bill, when we bought a house, I know when I bought my house, I didn't think twice about the interest rate. I certainly knew the interest rate played some role in affordability. But when I was first buying my first house, I needed a place for my wife and my kids to live in.
Right.
And, I wanted to buy a home. And, when the interest rates went down, we all refinanced, right? And we're actually using a term here that says marry the house, date the rate, right? So the house you pick is the long-term commitment. The rate is something that if you buy at a higher rate, we all refinanced over the years to get to the place where, we wanted to be at that point. And absolutely, lenders I don't think they're easing up restrictions, but they're offering more opportunities to kind of compensate for what's going on with the rates right now.
Can you reflect on the fact that because of the environment we're in and because of the different creative programs there are for financing now, one of the things people think is, oh, you remember 2008, how does this differ from that time period?
Yeah, I think the health of the mortgage industry, that I hope and I think by my experience that lessons were learned from that experience. I know we have in-house lenders, but we also work with lenders throughout the community, and they're very confident in the programs that they have. First-time home buyer opportunities are wonderful right now that were a little different during COVID even, just because things tightened up.
Can you give us an example of what you're referring to? For example, if you're somebody that let's say you were an independent contractor or somebody that owned a business, underwriting became extremely restrictive during the COVID times. Now there are more opportunities out there for people who can show their income to get lending at a certain level. Right now, and it's the rates weren't there where we were, but we have 2-1 buy down rates where you can buy down the rate for a couple of years to get a more reasonable rate. You have to qualify at what the rate is. So it's not a bait and switch thing, but it will allow people to be a little more, people can grow into the rate over time or refinance over time. What about jumbo loans? Have you seen anything creative with jumbo loans?
Our group has a 10-to-1 jumbo adjustable rate mortgage. And I think they were quoting me on those rates in the high 4s, low 5s. Charleston, because of our price point, I would say, depending on what you're putting down, a vast majority of our real estate in Charleston I don't want to say a vast majority, but in some of the, like the Mount Pleasants, the Daniel Islands, and the islands themselves, those are all jumbo rate kind of places. And
Yes.
I know we have a 10-to-1 ARM, adjustable rate mortgage product that keeps people very low. And the reality is most people don't necessarily stay in their house for 10 years.
No.
But you can still, we're still counting on the fact that over the long term, you'd be able to refinance and still be in a place than you were.
There's always a silver lining you just have to look for. But let's talk about inventory for luxury properties. What does that look like right now?
We used to, if you were looking at Isle of Palms or if you were looking at Sullivan's Island, some of those places, it wasn't unusual to have a year's worth of inventory out there. Just because in some cases it would be a secondary market where somebody would buy a second home or, I know for a fact that in all those areas, our inventory is still painfully low. In the entire Charleston market, and I'm quoting I run statistics for my agents every Monday, we were at 3,200 total homes in the MLS. I think in the 2009, 2008, 2010 period, we were over 10,000 at some point.
Wow.
So the reality,
and look at the population during that period too. I mean, it's like we got a lot more people living there now, a lot more rooftops.
Yeah. And for my Mount Pleasant office, I track Daniel Island really well. I track south with the Isle of Palms connector, Mount Pleasant, and downtown. And we are not seeing that inventory building at any significant amount. And if you're looking south of the Isle of Palms connector in Mount Pleasant, which tends to be the more expensive area, you have very few selections. And it is, and that's a little bit of the concern, I guess, without speculating too much. If our market changes a little bit, if interest rates go down after the first of the year at any point, we're still in an inventory shortage. And I like a normalized market. I like a healthy market.
Do you consider some aspects of the market conditions right now to actually be healthy?
If we were going from 2019 into 2020, people had already projected our interest rates to be above 5% and to be going, I don't think, we didn't anticipate the inflation now, so I don't think we'd be in the sevens, but we were kind of anticipating a little more of, I think after the 2008 to 2010, bubble crash and everything else, I think people were wondering if government backed away from, kind of making the interest rates so low, what would we see? What would a normal market look like? And I think as we went from 2019 to 20, we were thinking we were going to look like that a little bit. And then, of course, COVID happened. I think seven's a little high. I think that's being pushed by inflation. I think between 5 and 6s is probably where we would all even out at some point to a normal market. We need more inventory in the Charleston market. We have so many businesses coming. We have such a diverse market. I think for everyone, it would be much healthier if we had more stuff on the market, interest rates at a good pace, and then enough opportunity for everybody that got here to get a home. And the reality is our prices are probably where they're going to be. I mean, it's just the nature of the market.
What's the biggest difference between selling real estate and managing an office like you're doing?
Here, when you're selling real estate, of course, you're managing your book of business, your sphere of influence, and you're trying to take good care of your clients. As a manager, it's not completely different. My job is to know the market well, be able to coach and educate my people, point them to the resources they need to have to be successful. I think the thing I anticipated the least was how much I'd enjoy it.
That's cool, Jim. That's really cool.
Well, I really take a lot of satisfaction from helping people grow and doing good business. There's a woman I'm thinking of specifically who came to me probably 20 months ago and said she was thinking about leaving and thinking about doing something else. And we really sat down. COVID was a funny time too, to manage people like this on a Zoom call or online. It was just very unnatural in a relationship business. So she and I sat down, we kind of came up with a plan and, we worked together. She'd come in and I'd be kind of an accountability partner coach for her. And I would just encourage her, she was newer to the area as well. Maybe put her in a little, in a coaching way, uncomfortable zone to go out and talk to people and do some things. But she has flourished, and she just took a new listing yesterday. We all went out. We do caravans again, and we went out on a caravan to visit her listing. And it's the, I think, fourth listing she's had in her neighborhood since we started coaching and working. I love that. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of the things she's done. And that makes me feel really good. And, there's a lot of problem solving in my business. A lot of the time, all people do is come in and bounce things off of me. They know what they're doing. They want more confidence in what they're doing, and they want a sounding board to kind of support them in that process.
Jim, since you were in the medical field before, what were you able to bring over from that industry that helps you manage your offices?
I'm a communicator. I want to create a safe environment. I know it's weird, but every Monday morning they get an email from me at some ungodly hour of the morning because I'm an early morning person. They make fun of me because they get about a 6 a.m. email that outlines the entire week. It gives them an overview of the market and then gives them any opportunity for education to grow their business. And then every Friday, I end the week with, I call it the weekend. It's an email sent out to them as well, just encouraging them, maybe shedding some light on some things that were done that week, giving them a little bit of highlight, giving them some things to do in Charleston over the weekend, and just really just kind of patting them on the back, hopefully, for the week they've done. So, I think what I learned in my former life is good management is communication. Good management is consistency. They get those emails every week. We have a schedule that's followed very strictly in the office. Now, again, they're independent contractors. They don't have to come to anything, but there are education opportunities for them every day of the week. Right before we went on today, we called it Closing 101. One of our local closing attorneys came in and taught a class for an hour on what do you do from contract to closing and what do closings look like. So you can, again, facilitate that for your clients.
You bring a certain joy to the process too. And that's part of an enthusiasm. That's part of making it, as you call it, a safe environment. Okay. So at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about the seller. Tell me what is favorable in this current market for the buyer.
Essentially opportunity, selection, not being pressured as much as they would have been before. I do think in certain parts of our market, pricing may be a little more advantageous for them than it has been in a while. And absolutely a selection of homes, is a great opportunity for them. We did have so much pressure before. We did have so many multiple offer situations that I always use my wife as an example. She's a psychotherapist. She's an analyst. And if I had to get my wife to make a decision over a house that we're going to spend a lot of money on in about 20 minutes, she would implode. That's just not the way she operates. She may want to see a couple homes. She may want to compare them to each other.
Sure.
Our market allows for that now. And I don't, honestly, in the last 2 years at least, people haven't been able to do that. You had to make a spur of the moment decision.
Jim, are you still seeing a lot of people from up north come down here to buy in? Is there still a lot of cash deals going?
Absolutely. We have people relocating all the time. We have, we make the joke, has anyone left in Ohio? But we see the Northeast all the time. And I think compared to their markets and some of I came from the DC areas where I grew up. Some of the prices in those markets are astronomical. And for the quality of life people get in Charleston for, the property tax difference alone, and then the opportunity to buy something beautiful in an environment and a climate that is this favorable, it will continue to be a great market for people from those areas.
Jim, did you take that picture and back to you? Did you take that picture?
I actually did. I do drone photography. When I was an agent, I don't get out and I'm not able to do that as much as I used to. But that's actually from a neighborhood in Mount Pleasant looking out onto Charleston Harbor into Shem Creek. So. Yeah.
I remember being in and out of your office one day and I commented on a picture and I think who's the lady in the front when you walk in?
Yeah.
Susan mentioned that you had done it, I think. Hey, thanks for joining us here on Voice for Real Estate. And if for our listeners and viewers, if you haven't read the Mount Pleasant magazine with Jim's interview and Jim Grady's interview, please do so. It's a really It's a good interview, and I appreciate you doing that. Do you like the way the interview turned out?
I do. And the gentleman was great. I wanted it to, when you're an agent, you tend to focus things on yourself to get more business. It was important to me that it focused, just like you said, I want to focus on my agents and make sure that the attention's to my agents. It's a little, I don't want to say embarrassing, but my job is to facilitate their success. I think the article reflected that really well.
And they know, Jim, they know that. They know you're there to help them. That doesn't always happen in a broker's position. So thanks for being here, Voice for Real Estate. And I'll see you next time in the office.
All right, Bill. Appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Thanks for watching Voice for Real Estate, where you meet local experts who provide timely information in every episode. Be sure to subscribe, share, and comment. Find Voice for Real Estate online at voiceforrealestate.com.